Welcome
Welcome to yet
to
another edition
Now,
of
but
But
that's not
That's Not
important right
Important Right
now.
Now. Hey, look at that.
Hey, we kind of got
We're
it right again. We got to
gonna
get
get
it
it right.
better. I think
We're
I
gonna get
think
it.
by episode 10,000 we'd get it.
By episode 10,000, we'll be able. Yeah, by that time we'll probably have a bitchin' studio and everything, and headphones and
Oh yeah,
hot
oh we could
yeah
dream. We
and
could
hot and
dream.
hot and hot sexy intern serving us coffee. We can dream.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes. I mean, we were so old and doubled over and bent over. We
Yeah,
wouldn't know
we
what's
wouldn't
going
know.
on.
Yeah, we'd be like, we wouldn't say, but that's not important right now. We'll probably say, but but important. That's not now, right? And
What?
yeah,
What do you want me to say? Why are we
wait,
saying that?
what the hell? God damn it! I don't know what you just said. What did you just say there? I don't know. Help me! Help me! Help me now!
All right.
Yeah.
So welcome again.
Yes.
If you're first time listening to us, thank you. Welcome.
Thank you. We
Um,
appreciate it. Yeah.
we are two guys who used to work in advertising, and now we kind of bitch about it. or well, we, 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 we talk about it. We talk about, the
we talk about our
industry.
experiences. Yeah, in the industry.
Mostly we talk about creativity, and we try to impart some knowledge about get how to understand creatives and how creatives should understand non-creatives. And we try to talk about getting yourself working in the industry. If you want to work in advertising, let's say a little 12-year-old, and you see ads on YouTube and you say, I could do this. Probably you could. You
You
definitely could. Right?
you may even do it better
You
than
will
a the
probably
veteran.
do it better now as a
Yeah,
12-year-old than you would us as a 47 or 45-year-old guy or 50-year-old guy
yeah.
working in the industry. But
Are
that's
there
not
50-year-old?
important right now.
That's not important right now. Are there 50-year-old guys working in the industry? I doubt it. I doubt
Oh
it.
yeah,
I've always thought though that advertising is basically a young man's game or a young
it
woman's
is
game
a
because
young man's game. It is
it
a
is it
young
is
person's game.
it's a young person's game because
Person, person.
yeah,
Yeah.
uh, because I was like in my mid 30s when I started advertising, when I started embarking on an advertising career. Yeah, when
Uh,
I started my advertising career, I was in my mid 30s. Now, if there's any consolation, when David Ogilvy is regarded as one of the titans of 20th century advertising. When he started, he was in
yeah.
his late 30s. He was like about 30, 38, 39, I think he was. But that's beside the point. That's not important right now. What is
Yep.
important, though, is that, as I said before, uh, advertising is a young person's game, and
Yeah.
it helps to have a kind of a fresh outlook on particular things. Because let's be real. I mean, there are some things that we could teach a 25, 30-year-old, with regard to the experience we've had. But by the same
Yeah.
token, there are things that a 25 to 30-year-old can teach us,
Yeah.
and
Absolutely.
from a different perspective. And I think
Right.
that is one of the problems that we have, I think, in advertising, in that we think we know everything,
Yeah.
and judging from the experiences that we've had, the awards we might have won, that doesn't mean anything anymore
Yeah.
because it's a totally different era in
Yeah.
terms of how you convey the message, and it's an entirely different culture. I mean, when I started, when you started, heck, we didn't have like smartphones, not
Mm.
certainly not the smartphones that you didn't have anything like even remotely resembling that.
Mm.
And yeah, Facebook didn't
I
exist, Twitter
wanted
didn't
I
exist.
I wanted a bike. I
Ah,
wanted a bike. Now kids want a cell phone. What they want a smartphone. It's yeah,
yeah,
we're old. We're old.
we're
We
old.
don't. We today we're going to be talking. If you've been listening to us, over the past period of episodes, we have kind of touched a little bit on the subject of the Advertising Association. Now, this is not to be confused with the Advertising Standards Authority, of which there's a big question mark between the two of us of whether that still actually exists in this.
We don't know
country.
if that remains as a viable entity in this part of the world. We have no idea about that.
Yeah, but
We
I
have no
don't
way of
think
knowing it.
I don't think really and truly there's one that actually functions in the world. You know, I mean, I don't even know if there's. I know the British one is the one that is the most famous one. The Advertising Standards Authority of Britain. They're always cutting down ads all the time. They have a well, you know, the British are very conservative kind of people.
The British are anal retentive, if we're being honest.
Right. So, but we're not talking about the Advertising Standards Authority. We're talking about the Association of Advertising Agencies of Trinidad and Tobago, which is a body of basically paid agencies. So the agencies pay as members to join this, what they basically is a club, is an association. And the association is supposed to do various things. So we're going to be bringing on, we had hoped to be bringing back our friend Damien St. Bernard, but unfortunately he was unable to meet with us today. So what we did was we kind of asked, we were going to bring on another friend of ours who we worked at the agency, a guy by the name of Quincy Ross. Quincy is basically a copywriter. And let me just read out his bio.
And a very good one, too.
Yeah, it's a very good one. But let me read out his bio that he wrote. Quincy's a creative entrepreneur working in the creative industry for over 20 years, probably 25 years or something so. Okay. Right now, Quincy has a creative solutions company called Capacity Focused focused on creating content, but involved in a number of creative projects and collaborations with agencies and brands that involve creative strategy and ideation, brand workshops, ad campaigns, music production, video. So Quincy's kind of consulting with all of the agencies. So he's kind of knows about the status of the Advertising Agency Association. Now we try to not that we tried to reach out, we didn't reach out because we're lazy. We didn't reach out to anybody at the Advertising Agency Association.
We're lazy bums.
We're actively asking anybody who is part of the agency association and who have heard this podcast, or anybody who knows anybody in the association, to get in contact with us to come on to the show for our next episode in the next season, and let's have another talk about it, because I don't want to give a one-sided story. We had in a previous episode with Kevin Gibbs, he kind of started the story. You could go back and listen to that. I think that was episode 7 or 6 of season 1, where Kevin's talked about the inequality of joining the Advertising Association. Anyway, we'll get into it. We'll talk about it. We'll bring Quincy on and we'll have a chat about it. See where it goes and where it leads. So let me bring on Quincy, and so he's not waiting
too long.
We leave our guests on for too long, and they get vexed and pissed off, and then they cuss us off afterwards, and we cry. I cry.
I know. I assume the fetal position, so yeah, I would know.
Hello, Quincy. Welcome to the show.
Hi, Quincy. Quincy. Hello, Quincy.
He's unmuting him.
Quincy, how you doing?
Cool.
Welcome.
Cool.
Nice.
So before we brought you on, we did a little introduction of who you are, and Jared said you're the greatest copywriter, and I think that's accurate, isn't it?
I never said that he was the greatest. I just say he's a damn good copywriter. That's what I said.
He's a damn good copywriter.
That good enough. I take that. It's a good thing we didn't have video, because my eyes would be see my eyes open wide and thing. Blush and thing now, you know.
Don't worry about it. It's all good. It's all good. It's all good.
So we just put out a call to anybody who is with the Ad Agencies Association, and I don't know anybody, if they'd be willing to come on to the show on another episode and kind of rebut what we're going to talk about today, because we did kind of say we were talking about advertising on the whole, but we kind of want to talk about the Agencies Association because a lot of people have requested it. But
Right.
as in true Trinidadian fashion, nobody wants to come and talk about it.
Yeah.
And I am very wary. I'm very wary of bringing to the spotlight people who are doing work. I mean, if they're doing work and they're doing things, but we're just not seeing it, then I applaud them. I give them props because that is working advertising. Working advertising is all the dog work that goes in behind the scenes to get this thing done.
Yeah, the
And
thankless stuff.
Exactly. But
Exactly.
at the same time, you put a call out and nobody responds. So you'll have to say, well, shit, I mean, I put out a poll. This is how it sparked it. I put out a poll in various groups a couple of weeks ago asking the fraternity if they knew about the Advertising Agencies Association of Trinidad and Tobago. And
Right.
most of the results were no, we didn't know it exists. And these are young people. We don't exist. Most people thought that it was some kind of boys' club, that it was very exclusive and nobody should be involved in it except rich people. And even me working in the agency, when I was working at the agency, I had that feeling like this association is kind of it's not a 40 people kind of association. It's 40 it's for the owners of the agencies.
Right.
So what's your take on the Advertising Association of Trinidad and Tobago? Let's start.
All right, where to start by? A lot of what you're saying there, I agree with in terms of the kind of anonymous feel that and mysterious feel that the association has, right? And I think that's a symptom of what's really going on. I mean, the truth is, I feel like we need an agency association. I think so. I think it could be a good thing, but I think it will only be beneficial if it functioning properly. And I do think for the time that I have been in the industry, I wouldn't quite say that I think the agency association doing what an agency association could do. Now, I can't tell you over the years who were all the members and the board members and all that, but the only work I've really seen coming out of the AAATT is the awards, right? Which brings with it a whole different conversation as well. But the award ceremony is probably the biggest thing. And I don't know if it's common knowledge, but it's things that I happen to know, and I ain't saying nothing, and nobody ain't tell me don't say nothing. So the only thing I know of that event is that the proceeds go towards and I guess some other events too, like Christmas parties that we used to have and that kind of thing,
yeah,
towards paying for the media survey stuff,
right.
you know, and which again I think is the role of what an agency association should be doing,
right.
you know, raising money to do them things, funding studies, funding research and that kind of thing, thought leadership, you know, knowledge sharing, that kind of scene.
Yeah.
So I don't know if that's the intent of what the agency association, you know, have on the targets and the sites, but I think that's what our agency association should be doing. But I think that's what we lack in here, more or less in this scenario. That's how we start the conversation.
All right. So I have pulled up the website, and I'm looking at the website, which doesn't seem to have been updated since 2019. Now,
correct.
Pandemic aside, sorry, I shouldn't use that word. The unspecified virus from the unknown origin, right?
Exactly.
Okay.
That's what we're going to call it.
When I started the research on looking at the website, I couldn't even tell who's running the thing right now because the website is so piss poor. It doesn't tell you much about at a first glance, it doesn't really give you the information you're looking for, right? But if I look at the about us, I mean, their tagline is um, leading advertising with one voice. And
Right.
I don't think that's genuine.
No, I don't. I
I
mean,
don't
it
think
might be
that's true.
genuine, but it's not being achieved.
Right. But what does it mean? You see, again, we come back to advertising and we start using you know, taglines. Taglines have to bring in some kernel of truth.
Mhm.
So if you're using a tagline like that, you need to back it up with some kind of, real world thing. But anyway, they say they cultivate a sophisticated advertising communication industry in Trinidad and Tobago, which enhances the economic welfare and development of the country. I think that's a very tall order, using advertising to enhance the economic welfare and development of the country. I think I don't know if that has ever been a goal of advertising in Trinidad.
Well, what I'd say is this: from an industry perspective, I think they kind of doing it in a sense, and there's a perspective you could look at to kind of justify that, but it's not a perspective that like the one voice thing and all that, and sounding like if it's for the everybody that working in the industry and people and thing, it do extend to all that, right?
Right,
Because
right,
the agency association would be responsible for, I guess, cutting the deals with or spearheading, making the arrangements between media houses for agencies to secure their commissions and that kind of thing, negotiating them kind of rates,
yeah,
other fair play rules and things that might be happening through the industry. Like, well, look, we have a mandate not to headhunt, that kind of scene.
yeah,
So it will better the industry from that perspective. And I think it has been doing that because it successfully managed who in the association and who could approach media to do certain things and blah, blah, blah. It's just that is a statement that I feel should be wider than that. It
yeah,
should take into account, and it probably does, but maybe in just not in an effective way. It should take into account things like wages, industry standards
yeah,
and practices when it comes to employees and how they work, and not just saying, well, this is it and this is how it's happening, but
yeah,
actively going about day-to-day updating and adjusting and making sure people in the industry profiting in a way that they're comfortable. For example, I think the AAATT is supposed to be spearheading something right now to address in a very streamlined way what agencies doing in terms of employees and things like staff in relation to what you call it just now, the virus, the
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 unspecified virus of
unspecified
unknown
virus.
origin.
Yes.
and the restrictions that taken place, globally.
Yeah,
I think the AAATT is supposed to be the ones talking, having the conversations and exploring, what does it mean for agencies in terms of, let me move towards working remote, where's the
yeah,
benefits of that?
Right.
So that it's not happening in a haphazard way, but it have some science coming back. So it's not about what somebody feel when they wake up in the morning. I feel to tell my staff come out because that's why I dig. Versus right now in this time, it will make sense for your staff to stay home, because the benefits would be this, and this. And
yeah,
and
Right.
they could vote on that, have people have a say, get the correct information so that the industry operating at full potential kind of thing.
yeah.
But I don't see them kind of things happening. You know?
Yeah, Jared, what do you think?
I don't know. You're telling me that okay, we have an advertising association of Trinidad and Tobago, and you're saying that, and we are assuming that they have good intentions, and they probably do. They probably do mean well, but to say that you're going to, you okay, you have it in theory. You're saying it in theory, but in practice is something different because it's do we have an organization? Do we have an organization simply because you just want to have funding to host a huge award ceremony and then Christmas parties, and then that's the end of that, and nobody talks about it anymore?
Yeah.
Is there any way that we could make it a more substantial entity to have a far more vibrant voice? That is the kind of thing that I am looking at. Yeah, I mean, it's all well and good to do that, and I think what fails us at the moment is, how do we go about doing it? How do we set aside our respective egos and see how we could come up with a way to objectively improve not just how we conduct, the physical awards and things of that sort, but how do we have more of a voice? How do we make the industry more attractive? I think that is what. I mean, anybody could. Quincy, you could correct me if I'm on a wrong path. Tell me no.
No, actually, what I wanted to say is, adding to that, one of the things that, like, over the years, a couple times people had asked me to join the association, like come on the board and thing, right? One of the invitations was kind of like, you keep talking all this smack about advertising and
smack,
this and
exactly.
That. So why you don't just come and put your money where your mouth is, kind of thing, like a challenge. My ego real small, contrary to popular belief. I don't know if that's the right way to describe it, but it do have many things that I care about. What I care about them passionately. And what I don't care about. So I really didn't care that, I go and say no to this challenge. Like, that is not the way to approach me for that. Yeah. However, the main reason why I say no is because, to touch on what you saying, Jared, one of the main problems I feel is that you can't have people from the industry that have a full-time, job to do this thing, because it will always be something that they're doing on the side, no matter what, no matter how much you want to contribute.
Yeah.
The reality of the situation is, when it's 8:30 or 9 o'clock, whatever your time is, you're in an agency doing work, being dedicated to that.
Yeah.
And the challenge here, or the ask here from anybody that is on an association of like that, is there's like a full-time thing.
Yeah.
It really is a full-time thing. The amount of things that has to be handled. You can't do that, after 4:30. That is not an after 4:30 on a Tuesday kind of job.
Right.
This is every day you wake up, you're checking correspondence, you're researching something, you're doing something, you're bringing information to the table. I mean, just keeping the website updated, as you see.
Yeah.
It updated up to 2019, and real things happen.
And lots of things have happened. And there's nothing there to indicate, well, they haven't pointed out what is unfolded in the last 24 months. Nobody has said anything, which is kind of disconcerting. Because if I didn't know any better, right? And let's say that let's assume that I am from some other part of the world, and I want to find out what is advertising like in this part of the world, because some people might be curious and they might want to know how things are going there. And then you find yourself on the website, and then you realize, holy crap, it's 2 years old. What's up with that? I mean, what's going on here?
All right. So let me jump in here, and I've listened to both of you all, and these are obviously some of the things that we've discussed previously. Damien St. Bernard came on when we were doing the Halloween special and made a very good point that, and I'm looking at the history of the association. The history of the association has been since around 1964. How many years is that, Jared? Do the math.
That's 57 years.
Can we safely say that the Advertising Agency Association of Trinidad and Tobago, or any advertising agencies association in this part of the world, hasn't done anything for the industry? I would say no.
Not 50 plus
I could
years, but I don't think
the last 50-something years,
Yeah.
I said no. No, that's not entirely accurate, because when the couple of years that I got thrown on to the awards committees from the agency to go and work with the other agencies, I thought it was really good that I got exposed to other people in the other. That's how I met Kenatal, right? Who's from the other agency, and he's a really nice guy. He's a cool guy. I really like the idea of being exposed to, usually you're working at one agency and you hate the other agency. If anybody who's watching Mad Men, they know the dynamic, right?
There's always that kind of rivalry.
But when we came together as a group for that one award show, of which I was deathly ill at the time of the awards, I had a bad flu. I didn't even stick around for the whole awards. But the thing is, the lead up to that was one of the best times of my life. I remember doing some really creative, good work for something that was not for the agency. It was for the group, this whole group. And we were passionate. I don't want to use that word, but we were happy to bring somebody from abroad, the judge from abroad, to talk about advertising and to increase our knowledge. And this is one of the other things I talked to Kevin and Damien about, that the awards was the only time that we ever got to see, at least in my experience, and it was a very scattered experience, the only time we ever got to see somebody from outside of our experience that we could bounce ideas off of and get experience from and really raise the level. And that has obviously stopped because of recent times. So yeah, that's not very possible now. But I'm seeing things, people like AmCham, the American Chamber of Commerce of Trinidad and Tobago. They hold webinars every flipping week is a webinar. Come and talk about exports, come and talk about this. Now, I ignore most of them because it's not really interesting to me. But that, to me, is what Triple ATT should be doing. Now, to come back to what Quincy said, yes, you cannot run an association with volunteers, right? You can't do that level of work about it. So we are not saying, hey, Triple ATT or there's a-holes or whatever, because they don't, you can't do. That's not what we're saying at all.
No,
what we're saying is that, and then the other thing is that the whole idea of what an agency is now has totally been thrown out the window. Yep. An agency now is, you could go on YouTube and every man jack telling you how to start your own digital agency. So everybody have an agency. Everybody have something to do. The only thing that the Agencies Association had in its pocket was the fact, and this is what Kevin's problem was, is that when you go to the media houses to book ads in traditional media, if you weren't part of the association, you didn't get that special blind. Bly in the term, Trinidad and Tobago term, those of you who are outside of the country, bly is what? What is a bly? Can somebody define it?
Define a bly is like getting a hand up, a boost.
A one up, yeah.
A one up, yeah. But that's not important.
But that's not important right now. What's important right now is that that now the traditional media has become, can we say, passé? It's not the center of the universe anymore for an ad agency. It has been taken out now, and now we're in the realm of digital. You no longer, so no advertising agency in Trinidad and Tobago is going to go to Facebook and say, hey, this agency, we could get a special rate. No, that is not going to happen. So you need to be realistic about what the association needs to do now in the light of what's happening with the agencies and the industry overall. You see? And even so, for the last 50 years, they have not prepared us. When digital started happening and Facebook came on the scene, somebody in the Advertising Agent Association should say, hey, you know what? When they start advertising for this thing, we have to start talking about this and thinking about it. Nah, everything was fine. Everything was fine. Hey, don't worry, it's all good. Everything's good.
Yeah.
And now Google and Facebook and everybody, they hold all the cards. Now, this is not a unique Trinidad thing. This is a worldwide thing. Correct. But an association like this should have at least said, look, guys, and coming back now is we now have more freelancers. We have more people who are working remotely. We have more people who are working outside, working for a company, working outside of it. They need to be represented as well. And I agree with Quincy that no longer is this Leviathan association hosted by the higher ups, because as I said before, that's the perception. You needs to get back down. Like, okay, so the graphic design group, Quincy, I don't know if you're part of that group, the Graphic Design Guild of Trinidad and Tobago,
Yeah.
on Facebook.
Yep.
The young upstart, young artists who coming up, they want the information. They want people to teach them, how can I get into the industry? The answers are coming from the community. They're not coming from this association. You see, so when you ask them, well, do you know anything about this association? Nah, they're looking like some kind of stush thing, man. You ain't bothered that, you know, that's for them old fellas who running them old agencies.
Yeah.
That is the perception.
That is the perception.
You could get vexed and Stoops at us and say, well, Stoops, you don't want to define that, that's sucking teeth. You could suck teeth at it and say, that's not the reality at all. Very good. Come on the show and tell us. Ian, you all are talking. Every episode I tell people this. Come on the show and tell us. We're talking.
Yeah. Tell us. You tell it from your perspective.
Yeah.
And tell us if you think we talking through the anal orifice. Just tell us.
I will tune in just to hear that, you know, because nothing that has been said up to now is incorrect. It might lack support from actual fact because we don't know, and that's like 70% of the problem right there. You think? And what you're talking about just now, they're touching on a number of things that, again, I would put an association to manage. For example, it should not be that even though like rivalry between agencies, at a creative level at least, I think that should be encouraged. You know, it's fun and it's healthy. Yeah, and that's cool. But it should end there. There should be, and people do it. I for one, my existence in the industry, I would forever be working at Publicis and go online by Valdez in the evening or pass by Lonsdale, you know, that kind of thing, and meet people in the industry and just talk, you know, just socially, you know, there's not work at all, there's just real life, and of course work will come in because it's artists and creatives, you know. Yeah. So that kind of thing should be encouraged, and it's not necessarily the role of the association to do that. Yeah. I think that is individual responsibility as a creative, you know, that is what you need to do. But I think the association responsibility would be to foster that kind of environment. How you do that? Same things you're talking about. If every week we have a webinar, if every month we have a meetup, if every quarter we have some sort of big something, you know,
But that's what I was saying since the time I was working at the agency. We only ever saw the AAATT was for awards, and then maybe a carnival party, and then maybe a fete. Yeah, and I raised that issue after we had to go and do a post awards, what you call it? Not report.
Debrief.
It was a debrief. Yeah, debrief. And we sat down in a meeting with the then executive, and they were like, "You all spend so much money. What do you all have to show for it?" And I was like, at least that's the tone. I don't think anybody actually said that. I could be corrected, obviously, by the other people who were with me. But the general feeling is that we spend all this money on the awards, what we have to show for it. And I'm like, but you know, this is what we call the Academy Awards of Advertising for the local industry. We're not even going to talk about ADI Federation. ADI Federation is a whole other association that we don't see until awards come out. I don't see anything from ADI, but that's a whole other story.
That's not important right now.
But the AAATT always have this issue that, you know, where these committees that we have are supposed to generate income for the association, but it's a volunteer association. So what we generate income for?
You come right back to it. It's like, and I personally don't like spinning top in mud. I hate that. I hate doing something that I endeavor that you know from the start not going to be, you know, as good as it could be. I don't like that. Better we don't do it than
Yeah.
do, at
Yeah.
least better I don't do it than do a poor job, right,
Yeah.
at it. And if you're going to run, and I find this is a very Trinidadian thing, at least for me. I probably shouldn't say that because I don't have proof that it doesn't happen elsewhere. But it's something that I encounter a lot in the landscape where people want to do things, but they want volunteers to do it. However, they're expected to operate like a business and yield.
Right.
And that can happen,
Yeah,
that's
exactly.
not going to happen. What we're talking about to have, I mean, if we be real, the thing that sustain almost any endeavor is money, right?
Yeah.
That is where sustainability does come in.
Yeah.
So if you want to have something that could consistently put out events and consistently have activity and document information and all that, you had to have full-time people. Now I know there's a secretary that is a full-time position, I believe.
Yeah.
But that is, like tip of the iceberg in terms of what you had to have in terms of infrastructure. And I will say this, and it crossed my mind many times to do. I probably might still do it at some point, but it actually have a huge space for somebody to set up something like that privately and get buy-in. I'm sure there'll be resistance from, the industry for somebody else to come and do that because.
Correct me if I'm wrong, Jared. You could chime in here. There was a period of time where we had two competing copyright associations, wasn't there?
Yeah, there something else, right?
Yeah, there was, but that did not last as long as the Red House fire. I could tell you, so I could say something, yeah, and this might sound a bit revolutionary. And is it possible that we can have two separate advertising associations that they can peacefully coexist in that?
Okay.
Hear me?
Yeah, go ahead.
Hear me out. In that, you have one set of people dedicated to one arm of the advertising fraternity. They deal with finances, generating funds, that kind of thing. And they can dedicate all their energy to I don't know, to having the awards, and then you have the more established advertising agency reach out to other agencies, not just here but abroad, so that they could invest in the people who actually work there, send them on workshops, have them go to other places, find out what the culture is like in other, in up the islands, that kind of thing. I think if we did that, that would be fantastic.
No, I was going to say that when we started talking last year, just before the event that caused us all the world to go upside down, a bunch of us had come together and we were talking about starting a creative guild. And and the same problem, Quincy, is you cannot do this on the side. You have to start a company to do this, right? You have to create a company, you have to register the name, and you have to make. So the idea was we could do it, but we were going to do it on volunteers. Everybody would volunteer for it. But you're right, that cannot work. You have to buy in. You have to invest in it. So the only way that you could invest in it, and this is how the association started, the Advertising Association, is that the agencies paid membership fees, which apparently are a lot of money. I don't know how much it is, but it should be a lot of money. And their billings have to be a certain amount, apparently, so that they could be, But the idea is that money goes towards those various activities. But if a man says, I'm going to start a guild of digital ad agencies in the Caribbean, because Trinidad might be too small to do something like that, and basically say, well, look, everybody here are now stakeholders in the sense of they're shareholders in the company. I could see that working, and I could see that being a extremely viable competition to the agency. The problem comes back though, is that it might be a little bit too late, Because advertising now, for me personally, has come a lot out of, being controlled by the media houses and by the agencies, and now
Right.
controlled by Mark Zuckerberg and Sanjit, whatever his name is, in Google. And these are the guys who now own those chips. You might still be the little events and the little things. Yeah, those things outside of the digital realm is you still have to do. Don't get me wrong, but that's why I said the whole paradigm has changed. So yeah, you could start a company and call it the Digital Agencies Association or Guild or whatever, and create that, and that would be a viable response to what we have now. But I mean, is that is that needed now?
Well, here what I would say. I see where you're going with it. And I believe there's a universe where that could happen, but I don't think this is the one. Right? Because
this is the Calvin universe.
Yeah, if it was that universe, what you're saying there and what we're talking about, what you're suggesting, would have already been done. Because I don't think it's a lack of suggestion or a lack of vision in terms of setting up something like that. I just don't think there's the interest to do so. Yeah. I honestly believe that everybody involved reaping the benefits of what the association was set up for.
Right.
And the cooler the benefits that they have right now. And fine, that is cool. What I think is the focus had number one, it need to move away from agencies. Because when we talk agencies, we're talking agencies in the traditional sense of agencies, as well as the digital agencies will jump up in that. And know that they like to be called traditional, but I only use them terms in like conversations like these where it's easier to do it as shorthand. But I don't really believe in digital and traditional and all that. I stopped saying that like years ago because it's all communication, right? I think something needs to be set up around communication, creatives, that kind of scene, and open up in a way that, and I mean, I have ideas about it, but I don't think the generating of the money that is needed to sustain it should necessarily have to solely come from the members of it. Right. This needs to be something that is a business that could offer some benefits that people want, but I don't think it will be, or it should be dependent on subscription. Subscription could come in as well, but it need to be doing things that are interesting enough and valuable enough that people will be willing to pay for it in some other way and not directly pay to an association or pay to XYZ. Okay. So it's this body, and if you happen to have an arm of the body, or sorry, let me say the right thing, is this business. And if you happen to have an arm of the business that involves membership and people see a value coming into it, then so be it. But you don't need to be partnered with agencies, for example, to review creative work that coming out of agencies. You could do that independently. Right. And if you make enough of a mark and you have enough of a say and enough of a pull and enough influence, which is the currency of the day, then people will have no choice but to buy into in however you put it down. It will just be benefits, Yeah. I think that is the type of thinking that is needed. So I see it as, again, I mean, I stop looking at negatives as hurdles and just looking at them as opportunities. I think they have huge opportunities there in terms of, if somebody want to take the reins, and I could see more than one happening too. Take the reins and approach the creative industry from many directions. I mean, yes, we need guilds, we need associations. I mean, it could be as granular as doing guilds for artists, guilds for writers, guilds for producers, that sort of thing. Even you could have guilds for traffic managers, guilds for media, media employees, that kind of thing, media professionals. You could create something from any angle, right? It's just a matter of working out what the business is, what is the product that you're offering, and making it attractive to people to buy in.
Yeah, I agree with that. What I wanted to add is that we have a problem of standards, and this is what Jared and I were talking about before we brought you on. We were trying to work out whether we have a functioning advertising standards authority. And now the AAATT says they do a bit of not gatekeeping, but they kind of try to manage good advertising, whatever that may be. I mean, good advertising is a very, very, very loose term, right? But we have had instances where a couple of years ago, or more like 20 years ago, the alcoholic beverage producers in the country came together and said they were going to do something about drunk driving. I remember this. They made all the agencies. I don't know if it went through the Ad Agency Association, but I do remember me being at the lowest level of the rung, or just being told now to put this tag on all the alcoholic beverage ads that we run in. Drink responsibly or be responsible, whatever it is. When I asked the question, like, why are we doing this? They told, they told us to do it. I'm like, so what else is part of this movement? Now, I don't want to get involved. I don't want to talk all about that. But what I was saying is that the very idea that the alcoholic beverage producers came together and said, we have a problem, we're going to try to solve it. Whether or not that happened is totally, whether the tagline on it is just like, don't smoke, smoking is bad for your health on the cigarette thing, it's the same thing, Whether or not that actually stops people from drinking and driving or mandating that people don't drink it, up for debate. But that's not important right now for this conversation. What I'm saying is that at some point in time, somebody decided that they were going to make the moves to do it. And you're right. You just need somebody to see the opportunity, have the capital, because that's the next problem. Everyone in Trinidad wants to start business, but nobody have capital to start business. You need to have capital to actually kind of get yourself on a footing to be in the position to do this. Now, the other thing about the Standards Authority, and Jared, I don't know if you remember this, but the agency did a campaign which we won a lot of awards for at Addies. We wanted it was a press campaign for Savlon soaps.
Right? Yes, I didn't work on it. I did not work on it personally, but I.
All the time. But the story is that we ran an ad with an elderly-looking woman, mature woman. On her picture, she looking very what we call sour face. She have the up down to the mouth, and the headline is, "We take care of the germs. Your mother-in-law is your problem."
No shucks.
No, a series of them. We want to watch it because that's a great line. It's a great headline. Yeah. The line is, we solve your germ problem. Your teenage son is your problem. You teenage, whatever it is, it led into something else. It's a brilliant campaign. Don't get me wrong, but the association was inundated by calls saying that this ad needs to be removed post haste because it's insulting to mothers and mother-in-laws. You see? So the Advertising Standards Authority, that's why I remember that our cross, God rest his soul, wonderful, great man, met him a couple of times, very, very nice guy. He made a statement. He's like, we need to be cognizant of, and this is before what we call quote unquote wokeism and all the stuff that goes on now. And we had no social media in those days. The Advertising Standards Authority said, well, we don't see anything really wrong with this. It's poking fun or whatever. But the feminist position was, I think her name was Brown. Oh gosh, what's her first name? Hazel Brown. I think it was Hazel Brown.
Hazel Brown, that's right.
Hazel Brown wrote a scathing letter to the editor stating that she basically did what we do now on Facebook, which is we go and we make a lot of noise and we get people canceled. She wanted the campaign canceled. And, well, the client said, well, this is too much confusion, we're going to cancel. But the Agencies Association was involved. Advertising Standards Authority was involved. The agency itself had to make a decision. But at the end of the day, I don't ever remember the association, coming to the defense of the agency. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
As the association. So if you come back to if you're an independent body and you're running it like a business, you have to be the one to say, well, look, I don't like to use the word union. Union is a bad word. But you're part of this union. I am honor bound to have to defend you. Once it's within reason. You know what I mean? So those are one of the couple of examples I remember where we've had instances, and right now people are putting all kind of crap on Facebook and advertising. And Facebook is letting it through. Like I just saw a psychic. There's a psychic ad on Facebook. I'm like, why am I seeing a psychic ad on Facebook? So advertising standards seem to have gone out the window, but I'm not talking about creative standards. I'm talking about just plain old good taste standards.
Yeah, ethics and that kind of scene.
No, it is something that continues to bedevil us, and unless we make up our minds to say, well, hey, you know what? It's no longer how we assess things. It's no longer a revival of how we refashion the whole idea of coming up with something viable. We're talking about a revolution, and that is something again that we are loath to do.
Yeah.
Because if we made a decision to put a couple of noses out of joint, metaphorically speaking, it's gonna haunt us for the rest of our natural lives because of the culture that we're in. Usurping somebody's ego with very little, with very little firepower, so to speak. That is, people don't take too kindly to that. People, they'd rather preserve the status quo. The status quo has suited them quite well, but that is to the detriment. That is to the detriment of how of any agency that wants to call itself an agency in Trinidad and Tobago.
Yeah.
That's how I see it.
Yeah.
And I agree with you, Jared. Anybody, I think, doing, I mean, I myself experienced it. Anybody doing something a little different from the norm is a serious uphill battle, and it's not for the faint of heart, right?
It's not a, and please let me hasten to add. Sorry, Quincy, for interrupting.
Listen.
Let me hasten to add. It is not a Trinidadian thing. It is all over. But
Correct.
But we have it down to a science. We have it down to a science, because the minute, because our radar picks that up one time. You say, hey, why are they doing that? How come that had to happen? Why they had to do that? Why they have to move it to that particular venue? Or why did they have to change how the rules a little bit? Why do you have to bend them? That kind of thing.
Yeah.
You see? And we pick it, and we pick up on that very quickly.
And I think I feel is a global thing, is a universal thing, because I mean they actually say human beings, are creatures of habit. They don't say Trinidadians are creatures of habit.
Exactly. So, you don't say Trinidadians, yeah.
So that means is a universal concept. I think the problem with when it happens, and a lot of things happen here, is that according to that line from Inglourious Bastards, the problem with fighting in a basement is you're fighting in a basement, right?
Yeah.
Right.
So
right.
because our industry is what it is, the size of it, the value of it, that kind of thing, and just it operating in a smaller realm than that large scale thing when you look at the States or Europe and that kind of thing. The impact is just much dreader here. It's the same thing, but the impact dreader. Because if you have the high amount of businesses that fail, new businesses that fail as a global statistic, and you apply that a place where even because of economic constraints and certain other things, you have less businesses coming out, then overall we gonna be impacted by that start big time, you know?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And things like that, you know, seeing that trend, people growing up seeing that trend and then knowing that is how it is. It's difficult, number one, for somebody to step their mind up to take that kind of challenge, you know, and it also is not widely supported. But, you know, just overall the impact of it is, you know, we just don't move, you know, people don't take the reins, you know, things don't work out, we have less options. And it's just this huge uphill battle that you just had to make up your mind to do, right? And that a lot of times is make us come up with the alternative approach, which is to not totally mash up the train lines, but just kind of mash it up a little bit, you know, have it rough, so that they're still eating from that basket, but you're trying halfway. But just like the conversation with the volunteer scene, if you don't go all out and do it as a business, you're fighting with half the firepower that you need.
Yeah, exactly. I think the focus focus needs to change in both respects, outward and outward, meaning who is now your quote unquote market, right? It has come out now. The agencies are still there. Don't get me wrong. They will always be there. But now you have the small, not this, I wouldn't even call them smaller players. You have a lot of medium-sized players who shaking up the dance. I mean, for those of you who don't know the story, the new funeral home that came out with a bang, where they displayed the guy sitting down, the dead guy sitting down in the back of the tray of a van. You could look at it, you Google it. They came out with a bang, and that's a new funeral home. Don't mind, they have some questionable business practices themselves. We won't get into that. But again, the old funeral home paradigm is at risk.
That's disrupted.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Now you have a new set of players on the scene. I mean, I listen to all of these podcasts and these blogs and read all these blogs about building your own digital agency from inside your room, your one man. And the Indians have been doing it for 10 years. The Chinese have been doing it for 10 years. You know, we're not even in that space. We don't even play in that playground because that playground is so vast, right? The second thing is you need to, if it is a business, you need to treat it as a business, that you need to generate income for it. And how do you do that? So you're not building an agency. You're building something else. You know, the something else is an agency for an agencies. You know, it's an interesting take, and it's something that, you know, not even in the United States, no advertising association, agency, whatever, put up their hand and say, hey, Facebook, what are you doing, though? You know, because when the whole shit hit the fan with the Senate hearings about, when the senators started asking questions about how it is that my daughter's seeing ads for Barbie when I search Barbie, how is it that happens? When people ask those questions, you realize nobody knows what was going on. And now they know. But there was no ad association in the state or advertising standards or whatever.
I mean,
Who was representing these agencies at that level? You know, Facebook just come, do what it had to do, take over. And everybody just smiling, going, yeah, this is great, this is awesome, let's do this, yeah. The power has shifted, right? So you need to shift with the power. That's what I'm saying. You need to shift with the time.
The center, as you said, the center of gravity has shifted.
Yeah.
Fine. We've established that fact. Good. The thing about it is that we have to learn to adapt. We've got to learn how to adapt.
Yeah.
Because we could go, as I've said time and again, we could go on holy ground and we can swear that this system has worked for us. It will continue to work for us forever and ever. Amen. Hallelujah. That ain't necessarily so. We've got to understand that times are changing. Tastes are changing.
Yeah.
Cultures are shifting. Perceptions are being altered as we speak.
Let me tell you let me
We're in
tell,
a state of constant flux.
let me tell you what's happening next. When we talked last week about me being involved with NFTs, NFT might be a bubble that will burst, but it's leading into something else. This idea that creativity, art, what we call aesthetics, is now moving into this new sphere. It's scary, but also everybody needs to kind of, you see, when we saw the Facebook thing, we said, oh, this is just something on the internet. Where this thing is going now, and where Facebook wants to go now with the metaverse, I don't even want to use that word because it's so wrong to use. But the spirit of it is when you do the research, when you start doing the research and start looking into it, it's changing how the internet works, right? And this is something that none of us old heads have wrapped their heads around it. And this is a bigger change that's even going to happen even more. So the changes are happening quickly, happening fast, and nobody's getting really used to it. But the young guys, my kids, they're going to be in it. They're going to be doing it. You know, by the time I retire, I'll just be like, look, I'm not interested in this shit anymore. I'm done. But right now, as it is, we're on the cusp of something new. It may not happen next year. It might suddenly happen in 5 years or 10 years. You might suddenly see everybody walking around with these fancy glasses and they don't use their phones anymore. You know, it's going to happen. So there's something like an association needs to be kind of on the cusp of that, but that is not easy. Whether it's a simple company, business or whatever, because people react slowly to things. You know, that's just one of the things. Anyway, we have spent a long time talking. Quincy,
Yes, we have.
Quincy, how you feel?
Well, number one, I was real glad that that it didn't actually turn out to be let's bash the AAA TT, you know?
Yeah.
Which from the jump I didn't think was the intent, right? Not when
that was never the intention. That was never the intention.
Not when you asked about it, and all up to now I still feel the same way. That's real good.
Yeah.
And the only thing I want to add into it is if you look throughout all the conversations, all the different points of the conversation, it's all tied back to like personal responsibility, right? At the end of the day. And it's about the individuals involved changing thinking. And when I say the individuals, it involves everybody in the industry, no matter what your position is, your thinking had to change, you know? And it's not dependent on, not changing a direction of, I mean, I know for some of us who in it for a while, we kind of bitter, you know, I would admit to ones being very bitter.
Yeah.
Because we'd be fighting these same battles internally and like from agencies and trying to get agencies to change and things for things way beyond or way before this point that we're at now, which is real critical. But the lesson that we should take away from that is that change is change. Change is constant. It always happening. And it never come a point where we'll be comfortable to jump. It will have a point when we will have to jump, but it might never be a comfortable leap to make.
Yeah.
So we just had to embrace individually that we had to make the leap and not in a way like, you know, I want to mash up this or I want them to pay for not listening to me, you know, that kind of way. So that as a process in changing your thinking, I think that's important because it will influence the ideas that you have. We need to focus on the solutions and not, I mean, is a reality people might kick up and beat up and things. We have to be thinking about how we can manage that. Right. How I could create this in a way that is disruptive, but not destructive.
Right.
You know?
That's excellent. Yeah.
Destructive to like the actual people that make up the industry. Maybe I could do this without offending people or getting them to, or having them be afraid. Maybe you bring upfront, hey, these are the benefits to you.
Yeah.
You know, if you're jumping on this, not I'm gonna do this and if all it don't come, it will be hell to pay.
Yeah.
You know, that's a whole different approach. Yeah. And I think if we use, I mean, a friend of mine the other day had to remind me, like, Q, you're a slick fella, you know, you're charming, charm people rather than ball at them. And maybe that's what we had to do. Maybe we had to go and charm people into understanding or into giving us a try. Like, we try this out. Maybe if change is hard, let me try and make change easier.
I just want to add, right now, life is even more and more difficult because of the social media has polarized us.
Yes.
I don't want to get into that. That's not important right now. But what has happened is what I've found is since I've been in Facebook jail for the last month, is that my life has improved dramatically by not being so much on Facebook with all of the stuff that's going on. And also I realized looking out and looking in from outside is that we are holding on to our positions, and we don't want to release. We don't want to relinquish even a foothold, because
there it is.
Even to say, I think it might be right, even to say that,
even to say that is a revolutionary act.
Definitely very, very hard now, because people seem to want to I don't know what it is. I don't know. And this doesn't have
it's just humans. It's just humans being humans. That's what I say. At the end of the day,
it seems to have been put under like a magnifying glass a little bit, because I kind of saw this trend in the beginning, way back when Facebook now started. I kind of saw this trend where people were like, this is my position and you could go to hell. I thought, well, that's just plain people being trolls and being stupid or whatever. But now we're in life or death situations now where people are refusing to even acknowledge that they might be wrong. Or you yourself, you don't want to acknowledge that you might be wrong. When somebody tells you something, he's like, nah, you know what you're talking about. I know that. These things worry me, it bother me, but it bothers me more because I have kids who are going to grow up in this, which is worrisome for me, even in an industry perspective, because you have industry people who are still holding on, even the clients, they're still holding on to this. This is how we used to do it all the time. There's no way you're going to get me to change. This is how I do it. I'm not doing it any other way. And one day they're just going to find what's the word? It's a wasteland, because this is going to end up with nothing, you know?
It's going to end up with absolutely nothing,
Anyway, I don't want to end on a sour note, so let's define something. Let's define something on a little lighter note. What are we defining?
What are we defining? Wow. This is kind of hard to. Okay. What is positive change?
Yeah. Positive change?
Positive change.
Positive thinking.
Okay.
I would say change only because I think that is the solution. That's what we want to achieve.
Change.
But to do so, we had to start with the thinking. Agreed.
Right. So let's define change. I think that's a good idea.
Mm-hmm.
So how do we define change? What is change? Change is having the ability to accept the impermanence, if you will, of thought, of ideas, of things are constantly evolving, and that we need to adapt to suit the times. Otherwise, we're going to be left behind.
We need to evolve. We need to evolve. That's right.
That's it. But
that's not important.
That's not important right now.
Thank you for joining us. I know we could go on and on and on and talk about this for hours, which is
for real though.
Cool. Quincy, how can people find out more about what you do and where you are and what stuff you're doing?
Well, for now, I mean, because of the projects I'm working on, just on my socials, Quincy Ross on everything, Facebook, Instagram also. I actually don't be on Twitter that much, I was getting alerts something I was watching, but I know Twitter is make me feel like an old man for real though.
Yeah.
Same with me.
More than TikTok, that and well, the capacitynetwork.com, we now setting it up, so just have a couple things there, little pieces of content, but 2022 supposed to be a nice one.
By the way, I wanna let you all know that Quincy is one of the premier cook people. If you wanna ask Quincy about food, Quincy's the man.
Oh,
Quincy,
yeah,
Quincy, yeah,
man.
right? So
yeah. Quincy, Quincy
Quincy's not
is
only
the
a
man.
great writer, he's also a great food person. Eat our food.
Right. This is true. This is true.
Yeah, man. Food is it, boy. Food is it.
Hey, tell me about it, man.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you very much, Jared. Thank you very much, everybody.
Thank you. Thank you, Quincy. Thanks, Ian.
Thanks
Just
for having me, man. This was real good.
one piece of news. Please join us next week for
Sweet.
Facebook. I'm going to be sharing it on my page. I'm going to be putting it out. So hopefully, people will remember to come and check out. Come and check out redesigns.pro's Facebook page at 6:30 p.m. next week, Wednesday. We're going to have a live show. So between 6:30 p.m. and 6:45 or 7, we'll be talking and having a ball. What we're going to do is we're going to talk about Christmas parties. So anybody wants to come in and join the conversation by commenting and, asking questions, so on, we offer that. Jared, Jared, you're not an alcohol drinker, so you need to drink something. So everybody's supposed to come with a drink. All the people. So we're encouraging people who want to join in the live cast on Facebook. Come with a drink in your hand. It doesn't have to be alcoholic. It could be water. it could be
gin.
No juice.
Who's gonna know?
It could be anything.
Gin and juice. With my mind on my money and my money on my mind.
All right. Thank you, Snoop Jared. We gone. Thanks
we
a lot.
gone.
Later.
All right.
Bye.
All right.
Bye.